Welcome to a business talk with the podcast designed to showcase Portsmouth's best businesses and the people behind them. Today, I'm joined by Jay from Siltec. So, Jay, hello.
Hi, Matt. Good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on. How you doing?
Pleasure. Yeah, really good, thanks. Really good.
Good. Should we kick things off then? Do you just want to give the listeners a bit of a background about Siltec and the work it is you do?
Yeah, sure. Well, Siltec is a business based in Hilsey in Portsmouth. We've been going 6.5 years.
Okay.
We specialise in flat roofing, waterproofing. So we provide solutions for theoretically every single flat roof solution.
Okay.
Mainly commercially and a
Right.
little bit domestic. We run a trade counter there as well. Our flat roofing industry is where we supply.
Brilliant.
And yeah, we're going 6.5 years.
Brilliant. Okay, well, look, we'll get on to Siltec in a little bit more in a bit, but let's start with you and the journey you've been on then through owning businesses. Where did it all start for you?
I can go back to, how far back do you want me to go, Matt?
Let's go with, let's start with, have you always wanted to be in business for yourself? Was that always the drive? Or?
I guess, yeah. I mean, every young lad at some stage when they leave school has a bit of a dream. I had the stereotypical dream: you want to be a sportsman.
Right, football.
That was football. Yeah, football. Had a very sort of basic amateur career, but never went any further than that.
Right.
But love it. But that's my go-to outside of work.
Pompey fan or?
No, I'm not a Pompey fan.
Right.
I follow Pompey, being a local team. I'm a Tottenham fan, Spurs fan for my sins. Season ticket holder, but I don't really volunteer that information too often. But no, it's.
Let's go back to the business.
Yeah, let's go back to the business. I left school, did sixth form, and then fell into a career in the property world.
Okay.
So I was an estate agent, man and boy for 10 years, covered mainly sort of South Coast, Chichester, Worthing, Brighton, Southampton, and then did a sort of 3.5 year stint up in London and Surrey, and really sort of, I guess, experienced the high end of the property market up there, and a real taste for it. And then the crash or the recession and the housing market sort of really fell apart in 2008. And through a good friend of mine, I had an opportunity to get into the roofing industry. Yeah. But it was a sales role to actually grow a supply, working for a supplier within the roofing industry, but starting a business from scratch. Right. So it was myself and one other. We had investment to get started, and that was back in June, July 2008. We started that. Right.
How was it starting the business from scratch then? Talk me through
quite daunting. Right. Quite daunting, but there was an air of probably excitement as well, because it was an industry that I used to sell roofs. I didn't used to sell the products to put them together. So it was an industry that I had literally very little understanding of. Right. However, I'd acquired a certain skill set when it comes to selling stuff. So the basics and the principles of selling and sort of relationships with people and looking after accounts, etc. So I always felt that if I were to apply myself and my character and skill set in most industries, if it involves selling and relationships, etc., I thought I'd be okay. So this came about. It was daunting, but it was exciting. Yeah. I had kind of nothing to lose. It was one of those, long before marriage and children, not a great deal of responsibility other than myself. Yeah. So I threw myself into that, and that proved to be really successful. We started the business in 2008, and by the time we got to 2016, we were turning over the best part of 6.5-7 million quid. Wow. Okay. And it was sort of almost double-digit profit as well. So we were, it was a great business. It was a great business. But further to that, we'd established ourselves in the roofing industry as a recognised, respected supplier of a certain material system type. So that then exposed me to a lot of the peers within the industry technically, a lot of the competition, a lot of the associations, accreditations, all the things that the roofing industry sort of deals with day in, day out. Yeah. But on top of that, my business sense was really sharpened because I was exposed to everything from running a business. I was in there as an ops director, so I looked after literally everything that came into the business and everything went out the business. Wasn't so much on the financial side of things. I'd say Mark at the time, my MD, he'd sort of steered that. But from a operational point of view, everything that came into the business, product-wise, everything went out. Supply chain looked after. So, yeah, that really sharpened up my business sense on that. And I was exposed to a lot more. And then it was obviously managing more people as well. Yeah. I didn't have a problem with that. That's something that I've always felt quite comfortable with because of my previous career, running offices, having teams of sales staff, etc. But this particular job was my first real business-to-business experience. So dealing with other business owners, dealing with roofing contractors, supply chains, whereby when you're dealing with a business owner, it's not an emotional transaction. Whereas when you're dealing with the Joe Public, when I was trying to get people to, you're never going to persuade anyone to deal with at the time, hundreds of thousands of pounds to buy a house. Yeah. You sell them the appointment, the dream to go and look at that house. Yeah. Anyone who can persuade them to spend that sort of money is a better man than most.
Yeah, well, they always say, don't they, that actually people buy, and you mentioned more about the public there, but I mean, I think it is prevalent in B2B as well, depending on the product, that people, they buy with emotion and then back it up with logic. Yeah. So, I mean, you've still got to sell them the outcome. You've still got to sell them what it is they're looking for, what they want to achieve out of your particular product, but then they'll make it make sense by applying the logic.
Absolutely. And ultimately, every penny that's on a B2B is scrutinised and accounted for. Whereas I think when it's not a B2B, and in my previous career, it was far more emotional. Yes, every penny counted, but the emotion could override the financial justification.
They could see the house in 10 years. They could see the family, the kids, and everything.
Exactly. And you'd find people that would, if you like, potentially overpay for something. Yeah. But it was perfect for them because their lifestyle, their emotional attachment, everything that they needed. So, but in a B2B, I find that it's the scrutiny and the management of the money side of it was far more intense. Right. Which was great. And that was quite a steep learning curve. But the actual business itself, when we got to, probably about 2014, we started making obviously significant waves, positive waves, and as a product and as a system and as a solution, we were tendering and finding ourselves on some real key projects and some key opportunities within our sector. But that then put us on the radar as a business, and we were approached I think initially started in 2014 for an acquisition. Right. By the time it had all been ironed out, it was 2016, and part of that particular deal was that myself and a number of other directors were retained to run this new UK division of one of the European sort of big corporate manufacturers. So at the time it was testament, and we were like super excited. I guess if we wound the clock back 5 years prior to that, senior management, we were all like, one day it'd be lovely to have our own R&D department, our own factory, our own production facility, and they were kind of like the dream. But then it happened, and for the first 6, 7, 8, 9 months, it was great. But then the next phase of my business learning curve came in, whereby we were acquired by a European manufacturer, and yes, initially everything was great, and then they start putting their stamp on what they want and how they want things, and
let's stay there for a second, because I mean I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people out there who are planning to go through a sale at some point. They might have that might be the goal for them. What did you learn most, do you think, from selling the business or taking the business through to sale?
I guess from an acquisition point of view, and seeing it, and I was kind of on the sidelines. I had a stake in the business, but wasn't majority. So I wasn't fundamental in making the decision. However, I was involved with and exposed to the journey through it. And I guess from where I was sat, it was everything that was happening was new to me. And we're talking a significant business that was bought for a significant amount of money. And then we got to the stage where the teams that were put together to generate this new business, the integration, that wasn't the hard part, but I think the relationship with the new owners, as it were, that was probably the biggest learning curve, because not only was it obviously a new owner, it was actually from a different country.
So there's a culture clash there, was there?
Yes, if I'm honest, there was a cultural clash. One that we thought that we could deal with, one that we thought we would be in control of, being a UK business and then having a UK division of this particular business. But no, I learned quite quickly that if you don't sort of, if you like, stamp your mark that our business stood for, and what I mean by that is we'd spent 8 years building a really successful business. And within 12 months after that acquisition and the sale of it, our identity had pretty much been dissolved.
I suppose because it's you guys started it from scratch, right? So all the way through to that point, it would have been the culture and the values which you guys instilled into it, right? So and we see it 100%. A lot. We see it a lot when it comes to mergers and acquisitions. Like, you've got two completely, sometimes and a lot of times actually, two completely different personalities with people, values with people, work ethics with people, that are actually trying to merge them. You lose a lot of people doing it, because actually, if it's not the right fit, it's not 100%.
And what became evident was that people within the business, or the businesses, because it was two companies merging, the workforce and the staff and the team, and I'm a stern believer in I'm only as good as the people that work for me. And we had some fantastic staff, and I don't think enough consideration was put on the impacts it would have with this change of script. Basically, we weren't changing what we were doing and what our sort of stance was within the marketplace. We were actually growing our offering, because we had, we originally used to sell one particular product line, and then we were being offered three. So it was growth. However, people react to change differently.
100%. Well, we're all people at the end of the day, right? We're emotional beings. So
100%.
Some people struggle with change a lot more to other people. So again, like you just said, it's trying to manage that, isn't it? And trying to make sure that everybody sort of is feeling looked after in their own way, almost.
And I think that was one of the biggest challenges. Me personally, I found myself dealing more from wasn't an HR role, but I joke about it now, and I reference it with some colleagues that that were there at the time, and I was literally, my role became pretty much HR full time internally. But as a management, and a director level, that's part and parcel. I didn't mind that, but I was doing it more so, and that was because we were managing not just that transition, but the people within that transition that were finding it probably not challenging, but just didn't like the change. And I'll be honest, there was a time when we were probably 6, 7, 8 months into the new business and the new identity. And there were some significant changes on the horizon. And I, for one, it took me weeks, if not months, to accept that there was some big changes. And that was with operating systems. And I think, again, I'd spent 8 years, 9 years overseeing and building systems, processes, protocol within our sort of business operation, and within almost a press of a button and a bit of training, that was just being removed. And I kind of that wasn't a difficult pill to swallow, but it was another thing that I had to get on top of and had to adjust and adapt to. And I look back now, I didn't do it as well as I could have done and should have done.
But again, hindsight's a wonderful
thing, right? Of course it is. So. Yeah, of course it is. But from a learning curve point of view, I think it's very easy to say to anyone, "Oh, well, I'll deal with that. Not a problem. You change that, not a problem. That's going to be great." I think you mustn't forget. It is easy to accept, but you mustn't forget everyone will deal with that change differently.
Yeah.
And if you're relying on a team, you need everyone on that team on the same page.
Yeah.
And we were to a degree, but I think I could have probably dealt with some of these new, if you like, new systems and processes a little bit better.
Right.
But it was just the fact, probably me being a bit stubborn with the fact I didn't want the change.
Right.
Deep down.
Yeah.
Because we built something that I didn't think was broken.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
No, I'm with you, yeah.
Yeah, so that was a period of about, I don't know, a year, 18 months in that particular new business, whereby that was probably the most challenging. Yet we were still, we had this fantastic facility, fantastic identity, but...
well, that journey, it sounds like there was a lot of learning involved from start to finish, right? Because, I mean, sounds like your introduction into the world of business may be completely different to what I would assume a lot of people's is. I mean, especially the clients we work with, we tend to find that they were probably a roofer in their past life. They're a plumber, they're a builder, they're a hairdresser. So they've got the skill. So they think, actually, do you know what? I've got this skill. I've fed up on my boss, or I know I can do better, or I can give better service. So I'm going to go out on my own and utilise this skill and build a business around it. You were different to that, weren't you? Because you weren't from the industry originally.
No, that's right. And I think because of my, if you had to categorise what my skill set was prior to me arriving in this current role in industry, it was sales.
Yeah,
it was a salesy background. So taking those sales skills and then putting it into an industry that I knew nothing about, I had to find my feet quickly, learn quickly. But that was the challenge. That was the exciting bit. That was the bit that I thought that didn't faze me. I think from a technical perspective, what I did learn is that technically in this industry, there's a lot of considerations, and if you get something wrong, it can be seriously wrong. But we've got enough good people around us, and we did from the early days. But you said about the transition from people that may well have, if you like, for roofing, for example, I've seen a lot of terrific technical sales representatives or field technicians that have all come what we say off the tools. So they've been roofers in some degree, whether it be flat or pitch roofing, understand, if you like, the route to market and understand the products and the systems. And then there tends to be a really clear path for some people that have come off of roofing that want to go into, if you like, working for system suppliers is what we would be defined as, or going into surveying, or some go up to QS's estimating. But if you worked on the tools, there is actually a quite a good path. If you're technically minded, I think it's probably even easier. We've got a great example within our business, a chap that I've known for a long time who we took on, who again started as a yard boy, working within a particular contractor's yard, then went on the tools, had really successful, what I call an installation career, where he's actually laying the product, and now he's pivotal within our technical team.
Brilliant.
And now he does training, signs off, does surveys, and site inspection, signs off for warranties, etc. And that he's a really good example of someone that's probably gone through the process of coming off the tools and then stepping into the more technical, or even some go into the commercial side, some go out to sell the products.
Do you find that's quite a natural progression for a lot of people, or do you still get guys that really they want to be out on the tools and that's a part of the job they enjoy?
I think there's clearly a population within roofing that want to be roofers, whether it could be a family thing, they get on the tools and become roofers. There's not always a percentage that say, well, I'm definitely going to get on the tools because I then want to go and sell it, or I then want to go and work for a system supplier. But there is quite a good path for the technical side, because there's never enough good field technicians who understand the products and can, if you like, sign off and assess the products and installation quality of what system suppliers and warranties and what's required. So I think there is a path. and the ones that are in the industry know that they can sort of head down that path.
Yeah.
But,
so there's the option for them.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I still think the skill set though for MVQs, I don't think they're represented enough within our industry.
Right.
And I know that we may come onto it, but I know that we do have aspirations to have a bigger facility and actually have a training facility within. Or set up within our facility to actually not just train our systems, but offer a training centre, because the nearest ones within our industry, we have to go up to Suffolk or to Wales. So anyone within geographically where we're actually where we cover as a business, there isn't really anything. They've got to go and travel to learn.
Which logistically just has complications.
Yeah, so I think that there's hopefully room for that in the future. And if it's not us, then we would really get on board with supporting, like-minded facilities that we're going to do that for our industry. So yeah, that's something that I think there's still plenty of room for development and training within our industry. Definitely.
Brilliant.
Definitely.
Well, that's sort of taken us on nicely then. Let's start with Siltec. Talk me about the journey behind starting Siltec to start off with.
Well, it was born really from my departure from the business that I got into when the business I started was acquired. So that journey lasted a number of years, and then I, as an individual, was probably disrupted in a sense that my role, responsibilities, and my outlook on where I thought the business was going and where it should be going was completely different to what the owners wanted. And again, our European friends, but they, so they made it difficult. Then they made it difficult for me. They started changing my roles, responsibilities, and then I was one day completely sort of blindsided with a meeting to say, there you go, Jay, there's an offer to buy you out of the business.
Right.
And I think that at that time, when I look back, that was probably the hardest thing I had to hear or I'd faced in my working life.
Right.
Purely because I'd spent the best part of, well, at that time, 10, 11 years building a business, working with a business in an industry that I've really become really fond of.
Yeah.
And yeah, I literally within a space of an hour, or not even that, it's like the sky had caved in, and I thought, crikey, that's the end of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got myself together, pulled myself together, and a couple of days later, once the dust had settled, I sort of then had the opportunity, and someone reached out to me with basically a business plan.
Right.
And it was proposed to me if I could get the so-called band back together, then there was an opportunity with funding to start again.
Okay.
And I had some really good relationships, really strong relationships with a lot of staff that was obviously still at that particular business. And yeah, when they obviously seen the fallout from me leaving, and then within 4 or 5 weeks, I was back in touch with them, if you like, off the record. Yeah. Their notice went in a matter of days, and we had the business plan. And this was, so bearing in mind, this was January 19, when I left the previous business, and then within 4 months, 5 months, we'd started and opened the door, and Siltec was born.
Right.
In the interim, it was a lot of hard work, as you can imagine, sourcing a facility, sorting a supply chain.
Yeah.
I had to go to Europe and find suppliers and do all of that, which is something I was more than happy to do.
So what was the biggest difference behind setting the first one up and then setting Siltec up?
Well, the first one when I went into in 2008, I had no preconceived ideas. Yeah. It was exciting. It was daunting. And I had to learn everything.
Yeah.
And I think that was where it was a complete blank canvas for me. Yeah. And it was kind of go and do your worst. You know what I mean? Whereas when I look back to 2019, when Siltec was born, the strategic side, my input and the reliance on me to A, get a team together, B, head the business up, and then understand all the working parts that I wasn't necessarily exposed to in my previous role. That was, again, it was exciting, but probably more daunting.
Right.
However, people that know me knew that I had a point to prove.
Right. Okay.
So I had a real fire in my belly to prove certain people and certain decision makers wrong with my, if you like, the decisions that were made in my previous role. So I went out to prove a point.
Okay.
And I'll continue to do that. And I still, to this day, there's that fire that burns for me to prove a point. So I guess when Siltec was born and when we opened the doors for the first day of trading, that was more daunting. It was more daunting because
there was a lot more onus on you, do you think?
There was, and I was trying to get the business up and running and started, if you like, under the radar a little bit, because I had restrictive covenants on me, all sorts, and not only with our supply chain but with competitors, with customers. That's the area that I learned. There's so many, if you like, pitfalls. Right. If you get that wrong, and from a legal point of view, that level of business and where I was within the business, I'd never been exposed to that. No one's ever put a restraint on me where I can or can't trade, or what I can do, what I can't do. So operating within that, as well as motivating and firing up a new business, that was quite challenging. When I look back, that was challenging. But I think if you've got people of a similar ilk, and I put a team around me that I knew, a team that I'd worked with for 10 years almost, that definitely helped. Okay. That definitely helped. I think if I look back and if you'd said to me, Jay, would I have started that with a completely new set of staff 10 years ago with what I know now, I think, crikey, I would have probably changed a few things. Right. But I was fortunate enough to have really good experience, some great colleagues, people that I kind of handpicked to start the business, with some support at top level, and it was exciting, but there was enough fire inside me
to motivate you
to ensure that it was only going to go one way. But don't forget we've had our troubles along the way. We've had hurdles to get over. So as do most businesses. But I think if you've got that desire, and I don't think I'm probably not the most technically gifted within our company alone, let alone the industry.
Right, okay. But again, however, you sort of alluded to it a second ago. You want to surround yourself with people who are in some cases better than you and doing certain aspects of the job, right? You don't have to be the best at everything within the business. And I think when we work with our clients or when we work with people, sometimes it's actually getting over that complex that actually you don't have to be the best at everything within the business.
Very true.
Sometimes it's actually better that you're bringing on people who are better than you at certain aspects, because you know that they can run away with it, and they 9 times out of 10 are going to do a much better job than you actually doing it. Yeah,
100%. I think it's round pegs, round holes, isn't it? And square pegs, square holes. And I think we have that. We have that as a business. We've had to try, and on occasions when I look back, there's been a few square pegs that have tried to go into round holes. But on the whole, you're absolutely right. If you've got the right sort of team that will cover off aspects of your business that are key, and they have that strength, then I think that's a win for me. I think training people in this industry takes time. It does take time. The experienced candidates out there at any level have got to where they've got to, in my opinion, through experience and ability to apply themselves in their said field. Probably the same for most industries, I'm sure. But in this industry, I found that you can't just rock up and 2 weeks later know what you're doing. You can't.
No, 100%.
And I think there's a lot to be said for having that experience in and around anyone's business too. But people that are willing to obviously share that knowledge as well, and people that you can lean on. So it's pivotal for me. It has been pivotal for Siltec. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so you mentioned about some of the challenges which you focused on or that you experienced in the early stages of Siltec. What do you think have been some of the other challenges which you've had to overcome in your journey?
Oh, crikey.
Yeah.
So we'd opened the doors in 2019, and within 8 months, we were worried we'd have to shut them again.
Yeah.
And obviously,
a lot of people as well,
exactly
right?
exactly that, and it really got hold of the country, and it was, as I say, as a pandemic, it was, no one really had experienced this before, not just out of work, but in work as well, and. You know, we touched on it briefly, and we spoke earlier about some of the things that that we've had to overcome. But I think that was probably, since we started Siltec, that was one of the hardest things to overcome. And it wasn't just because the whole country went into lockdown. It was actually dealing with staff and people within your industry that you deal with and trade with that might have been affected with COVID, that may have sadly lost people through COVID, and their actual mindset of what work looks like further down the line.
And I think that's changed sort of full time now. If you look at the way that we carry out our work sort of as a country, it's completely changed since then. I mean, people are much more in hybrid roles now. Working from home is still much more prevalent in a lot of companies. You saw some massive organisations get rid of office space permanently because we found this new, completely different way of working. So how did you guys adapt, do you think?
Well, excuse me, you're absolutely right. There was less appetite for people to get in front of anyone. So to get out on the road and see clients, see customers, suppliers coming in, it literally, I think we had a 8 or 9 month period where it was non-existent. Yeah. So Teams and video meetings.
Good old Zoom.
Zoom took right off, and it was a really, really strange time for the country, but within our industry, and and definitely within our business. We were all navigating through an experience that none of us had been in.
No, 100%.
And I think fundamentally and first and foremost, it was, the staff are my everything.
Yeah, people first.
Exactly that. And welfare, well-being and all of that was top of my agenda. But we got to about 2 or 3 days in. So furlough was obviously introduced. Yeah. And we had plenty of conversations within the business, and there was only 6 of us in total in the business. So 3 were going to go, 3 were going to stay on, including myself, and 3 were going to put on furlough. Well, within 48 hours, those 3 were back off furlough.
I remember you saying because you were so busy.
Because we were so busy, and because we were sort of classified under the key workers in construction, we had to supply materials. The wheels did keep rolling, and we did navigate through it. You hear stories. We heard stories of people that had suffered, as did hundreds and thousands of people up and down the country. But we were pleased that we were able to navigate through it. Yeah. And what I mean by that, everyone within our office and within the business came through, and I had a job at the end of the day, and we still had a business. But first and foremost, health was top of the agenda, and that was we got through that. But it was just a really sticky, strange time.
Yeah, it was.
So we had that, and that was we hadn't even done a year's worth of trading. Then we already had the I think the tougher position of going through Brexit, because importation of products that we bring in from the continent, that became a little bit more, not challenging, it was just a lot more long-winded.
Okay.
And then we had, then what do we have after that? Then obviously the fallout with certain routes because of the conflict, the Ukraine conflict, but that affected so many other people as well. Yeah. So I think it's fair to say we've had our fair share within, and this was all within the first sort of 3 or 4 years. Yeah. Exactly that. But whatever doesn't knock you over makes you stronger.
100%.
Something along those lines.
So let's stay on that then. What did it teach you, and how has it changed you as an owner of a business now?
I guess one of the biggest things is having sort of ring fencing your team and making sure that we've got that unity within the sort of staff population and making sure that our office operations and everything that we do, if that's as slick as it can be and relationships are great, then I've always found that allows us to deliver the service that we do in the best possible light. And I've said it 100 times. We haven't reinvented the wheel with what we've got as a system or a product. We've got some great products and some market-leading products. However, it's how we deliver them and service them. That's what I'd like to think sets us apart. So I'm massive on service level, always have been. I think that goes back to probably my previous life. And I think if we can service anything and anyone to the highest level that we're capable of, then I think we've always had a fighting chance.
Yeah.
So I think, to answer your question, it's that morale, sticking together as a team, and really listening to all the individuals. Because as I said to you, everyone in my business is equally as important.
Yeah, so. Well, it's keeping the team involved and included in, not necessarily in all of the higher level decisions, but it's making sure that they feel like they can have an impact on the direction of the company, isn't it? And feeling like they are heard and they are listened to, so that their opinion matters almost. So what are your go-tos, or how does Siltec operate to keep the morale up and keep that camaraderie? Sorry,
I try and be as candid as I can with direction, with what we want as a business, what the end goal is. No, I don't actually say I don't give my end goal to said individuals or the teams, but I think as a business we've got our goal to get to a certain level of turnover. I want new premises, which we're in the market for. Which is expansion, growth. I personally, I don't think I want to get to that stage where we become some big corporate animal, because what comes with that is another set of headaches. I think we're well aligned to take another slice of the market with the team that I've got. I want to make additions. Growth is high on the agenda. But at the minute, I do try and be as candid as I can with everyone. Everyone in my business is equal importance. Yeah. Not just my sort of middle management level, but right the way down to the guys that operate, whether it be in the office, the warehouse, or whatever. They are all pivotal, and I try and ensure that they have a handle on what the business is doing. Obviously, there's decisions that need to be made that don't involve those people. However, giving them an insight as to what I'm trying to get to, what I want the business to get to, what my shareholders want, they're all things that I try and be as candid as I can, and I think that keeps people involved. I think that keeps people hungry. I think it keeps people, feeling part of the fabric and feeling as part. And we do that anyway because we're quite a small team in relation to, if you look at the competition that's out there. We're one of the newer and one of the
13.
So and I'm up against some nationals that hundreds of staff. So we are quite a small, intimate team when it comes to compared to the rest. And I think that has its advantages for us because
be more nimble and dynamic.
100%. Ultimately, if something was to crop up in the office, and there was a fire that needed putting out, in a sense that we had a problem or whatever it may well be, I'm there. So and ultimately the decision will be made, and if it arrives on my desk, then the decision's made there and then. And I do know from my previous roles that sometimes if it's something that needs to be changed or there's a problem or whatever, it's got to be, you've got to run up the flagpole, and before you know it, 2 days have passed before you've got an answer. So I think you're absolutely right. We are more nimble, and we can manoeuvre ourselves quickly when we need to, and that does have an advantage. And that, because I involve not everyone, but I try and involve team members that are critical to contributing to that decision making as well, because I'm a stern believer in that. I want people to make decisions and stand by their decision. If it's wrong, we'll pick the bones out of it afterwards. I don't like indecisiveness. I don't like people, if you like, constantly wanting reassurance with decisions that they're making. I think I'll represent that by giving them more responsibility because I know they can make decisions.
Yeah, okay.
And I'm a firm believer in people coming up through and training through, being exposed to more and more.
And also, these are the guys on the ground floor, right? These are the guys on the front line. Chances are, and it's what we go to when we talk about management and we talk about leadership, there's a big chance that actually the guys out on the road or the guys out on the floor, they might have a better understanding of what needs fixing in the 100%. Business because they're the ones implementing the systems or they're the ones operating the systems. Actually, if there's a bottleneck or if there's something missing or if there's a way for it to be more efficient, chances are they're probably the ones which 100%. Are going to be able to tell you.
100%. And a good example of that within our industry is that certain products that are installed are a skilled install. And there's certain decision makers within businesses, within, if you like, roofing contractors, you know, and I've sat in dozens, hundreds of meetings whereby you're presenting our systems, our products. Yeah. And, you know, I'm talking to people that are making decisions that pay the bills and promoting what we have as a solution. But one of the questions that, and one of the things I always promote and what I'll always ask to do is, if I've got samples, can you give that to the boys that are installing it, to the lads that are doing it, the lads on the tools? Because if you keep them happy and they've got a product that they can install quickly and effectively, and they can earn a few quid off of because they're putting it down successfully, that helps the decision makers, I think, make that decision.
Right.
And there's because there've been a load of examples whereby, you know, some competition, some other, you know, if you like, cheaper alternatives that come over from other parts of the world. Yeah. People might think it's cheap and cheerful. It's cheap and cheerful for a reason.
Yeah, okay. Quality.
Exactly. And some people that make the decisions, well, oh, that's it. Well, I can make a few quid because I'm buying that really cheap. But the pitfall of that is, well, you can't install it very quickly. It takes ages for preparation. And then ultimately the workers are moaning about it. They don't want to install it. And then before you know it, you're worse off than what you would have been if you put a more premium product down that's really user-friendly. Yeah. Which again, there's probably hundreds of examples in all other industries where that's the case. But yeah, it's the decision makers ultimately when they're presented with a product. My stance is the guys that are actually going to be hands on with that product, let them have an input on it. Let them have an input on it.
Okay.
So
brilliant. So you mentioned earlier about involving the team in the growth plans and everything for Siltec. Where do you see Siltec going over the next sort of say 5 years?
Well, we need to move. That is on the agenda. We do need to move. I've recently, earlier in the year, actively looking for new premises, bigger premises. We've recently acquired, recently, 6 months ago now, we've got overflow office space for the sales team, which are actually not on site with the warehouse and my office, etc. So, and where the operations team are. So, at the minute, we do have two facilities.
Is there? Do you find is there a bit of a disconnect with the separation, or is it working quite well?
If I'm honest, Matt, yeah, there has been, and more recently because the busier we're getting, and if you like, the more pressure that all of us have got to a degree, that communication and that disconnect is not as good as it could or should be. Okay. And that's why I think the long-term plan, or medium to long-term plan, is to expand and get to premises where everyone's under the same roof. Yeah. I'm a firm believer in open plan office. I'm a firm believer in everyone, especially in an operational aspect, and sales, to be in it together. Yeah.
I think in particular in sales as well, because you bounce off each other, don't you? I mean, we all know, especially in the sales environment, you can get into slumps, you can get demotivated. So having the camaraderie around you of a sales team and an operational team as well, I've seen it more from sales team, the impact it can actually have by being around other people and everything else. It can be very powerful.
100%. And I think, like I said earlier, you can't just rock up in this industry and have no experience and all of a sudden take to it like a duck to water. Yeah. There is so much technically to understand with systems and whatnot. And I think it's really, really important that we can surround our staff, the newer staff, the staff that still have this learning curve, with the most experience. So that's what we aim to do that as often as we can. I think that's the quickest way of learning anyway. Yeah. Put yourself around the people that are doing it and delivering. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So it's So growth plans definitely to move. We've already started the wheels are in motion for that because we have a time frame of where we are, and I think there's a lot of. I mean, I don't want to go too deep into politics, but none of us within the industry really can hand on heart say what it's going to look like next year.
Okay.
There's all sorts of. We try and make ourselves recession proof, and I think the only thing that I think I take comfort from is if we do, as an economy, go into this recession next year, which some people are talking about, some people are saying we're already in it, then because we are the size that we are, I think that allows us to be more nimble. It allows us to cut our cloth accordingly. And I want to make sure that, I sleep at night knowing that I've got a team of individuals that can deliver for Siltec and they'll have a job. And I want to make sure they got a job. I want a job. And I don't think I would sleep too easy if I had an enormous team that were delivering and then the market change dictated just how busy they would be. Yeah. And then you get to that awful period or potential where you may have to lay people off. And I don't ever want to get to that stage. So, with growth plans, despite what the market may dictate, but as I say, we've got very healthy pipelines. From where I'm sat, there's not a massive amount of noise that makes me think, crikey, we're in for a real tough year next year because there's a lot of work out there. Yeah. There's a lot of people still putting up property.
It's an abundance mindset as well, isn't it? And I mean, it's what I think a lot of people are, maybe guilty might not be the right word to use, but when we do approach these types of social or life or political events, you do almost feel like, how are we going to get through it? But actually there's enough work out there for everybody. It's having the, like you said, the team and the infrastructure around you to go out and go out and grab it still.
I believe that. I really do believe that. And again, if sometimes price does dictate whether a deal is done or not. But if I can deliver that and be in the reckoning, but deliver it with that service level, that's what I hope differentiates us.
Well, that was going to be my next question, actually. What makes you stand out from the competitors?
I guess that I'm like I said, I'm a firm believer in service level. We do have a product offering that, again, is as good as most on the market. But I'd like to think we're a bit more personable in a sense that we will do what we need to do to deliver a product that said customers know and can rely on, and ensure that their aspirations to get a job completed, signed off, done, isn't affected or held up by me. Right. So it's one of those scenarios where service for me is probably the biggest factor that sets us apart. And I think hopefully always will be. Yeah. That's the key.
Do you think that's why you don't have the appetite to become a larger corporate? Is there a bit of a fear that you'll lose that service level or that identity almost?
I guess in my previous life that was the case, and when I worked in the property market and worked for a big corporate, there wasn't a quarter that went past where you go and do a training, sales training, and what to do in this scenario, etc. And you're constantly training your team to be better. And the message was always service, service, service. But I think that the corporates in the industries that I've worked in and probably others that I haven't, you do run the risk of losing a handle on that because of the sheer size of what you're trying to implement. Yeah. And I would always, because turnover of staff, for one, I think with the big corporates, turnover of staff happens a lot more, and therefore, if Mr. Bloggs wanted to see, I don't know, Mr. Smith at a certain time, and that was their account manager, and then before you know it, 2 weeks later, someone else is in. Yeah. That relationship just gets diluted. Okay. So for me, I want to be able to deliver and have customers that know us by name, know us, probably what our shoe size is. Yeah. Okay. We joke about that. And I mean, I've got, really worth saying that one of my members of staff in particular, who runs my trade counter. We call her our landlady because she's ruthless with how she delivers her trade counter products and how she deals with her customers.
Right.
Ruthless in a really nice way.
Yeah, in a positive way. Yeah.
Exactly that. She's relentless, but she almost treats it as her trade counter, as her pub.
Right.
These guys that come in, and without being stereotypical, it's a very male-orientated industry, roofing, and these guys that are coming in, these lads that are in, they come and see Mandy, and Mandy has them eating out of their hand. And before they've just come in for a certain product, before they know they've left with a van full, and it is kind of like that. It is like that, and she is so successful in what she does, and she's a big asset to our business. But she's a good example of, if we'll have conversations in the office, and if I'm looking at perhaps age debtors list or something like that, and it's said customer, and I'll just say to Mandy, right, so and so, what's happening with this? She'll say, no, he's doing this the other day, he's taking his dog to the vet, blah blah blah, and she will know, literally
the
ins and outs of every customer. You cannot put a price on that.
Yeah.
The value for that, for me, from a service level, is frighteningly good.
Right.
There's an argument to say if I had 3 or 4 more Mandys.
Yeah. But again, replication is always the ideal, right? But actually, like again, we've spoken about it a couple of times. Like, people are individuals. Like, people have that work ethic, that drive, that character, and you just need to make sure you're doing enough to look after them, make them feel heard, and keep them on board, right?
Yeah, exactly that.
So look, we've spoken about Siltec, we've spoken about the previous role. What about Jay? What's the end goal for Jay?
I think if I get to the stage where the business is premises wise, what we're turning over, what we've got, who we got employed, and the numbers are all working, then I guess 5, 10, 15 years time from now, I'd like to be playing more golf.
Right. Do you have a handicap now? Or?
I do. Yeah. It's never where I want it to be, but I'm trying to get.
Golf is ever is.
No,
really?
I'm on the cusp of getting the single figures. So, but I'm never going to get the single figures if I don't play enough.
Yeah.
So, it's that old adage, but there's never enough time. But and I'm a bit of a fair weather golfer anyway.
Yeah. So am I, to be honest.
So yeah, getting out this time of year, especially what it's like outside at the minute.
Horrible, isn't it?
No, that's not my bag. So, I guess I want to be able to probably sit back in however many years' time and be able to hand the reins of a business over or to someone or with someone that can say, actually, do you know what? Everything's in gear and everything's working. Someone who, a bit of advice I had, crikey, I was a little, I don't know, I was still wet behind the ears really, and I was very green, and I was into the property market. I was barely out my teens.
Right.
And I had a regional director that I worked for, and he once said to me, he said, what you want to work to do is work your position into redundancy. I never really understood that until I got further down the line in my career.
Yep.
And he said, no, you invest your time, your skill set, your application, your knowledge into the people that need to be doing your job.
Yeah.
Your job's done.
Brilliant.
And I thought to myself, what are you on about? Why do I want to be redundant? And I did, 19, 20 years old. I thought, no, why do I want to be redundant? And I thought, no, what a fool. And but I always held on to that. And ironically, this individual's doing very well for himself. But it really resonated with me the further into my career I got.
Yeah.
And I think when I was back in my previous life, when I was in the property game, I ran offices and had staff and teams and whatnot. And, I would probably, share my knowledge and my sort of training and skill set and experiences with sales. And if I spent all my time doing that, and, wasn't out valuing houses or doing whatever I should have been doing, but those guys became better individuals, hitting targets. My officers were looked after, and it's so true. And I try and I say apply that now. It's a slightly different sort of market and a slightly different industry. However, if my time is invested where it can be within the right people and to the right people, then my role, if God forbid anything happened to me tomorrow, the operation should still run.
Yeah,
and that's what I think the end goal for me would get to that,
right?
So that I can step out of a role that I'm doing, and no one miss me. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Because the business has got to where it needs to get to.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, look, one last question then. You've been through a lot, journey in your business. You've learnt a lot. Learned a lot of lessons. Anybody who is out there right now going through maybe a similar journey, which we've spoken about today, what would be one bit of advice you'd give to them?
Don't fear making a decision. And I guess if you're in a position whereby you're at a crossroads, if you err on the fear of actually making that decision and don't make the decision, for me, that's a bigger consequence than actually making a decision and getting it wrong.
Right.
Because you'll learn from that mistake.
Yeah.
So don't be frightened to make a decision.
Brilliant. Great. Well, look, Jay, I really appreciate you coming on, mate.
No, pleasure.
Really appreciate
Thanks,
how
Matt.
candid you've been and how open you've been about everything. It's been great. So thank you very much.
Pleasure. Thanks, Matt.
No
Cheers.
worries.